today I'll be talking about my help desk and how we can further automate, preparing the shows and creating the show notes, tweeting about it, and so on. And just to quickly recap, what I've done so far is I've automated these sections. Past shows and upcoming shows are automatically generated from issues like this one. And I spent a few episodes on Twitter and automating tweets. So I'm using the Twitter API to schedule tweets. Like these two tweets have been scheduled and went out automatically. So I don't need to do anything about that. And in future, I might do more things with Twitter. For example, update my name, saying something like, hey, Gregor is live on Twitch or something. And then when the show is done, put it back to its previous state, maybe change the pinned tweet, although I think there is still no API for that. Anyway, the next thing on my list is to automate comments. So basically when I go live, like right now I have to manually say like now live on Twitch TV Gregor Codes, and then check this off. And ideally, I want this to be automated in future. All right, so let's say hello. On Twitch comments. Okay, so right now I have a pretty fixed schedule with the episodes, but this is likely to change. Like I might skip an episode or I might change the schedule. So for commenting, the easiest thing to do would be to create a new action and then use the cron trigger and then set two schedules, like once on Mondays at noon Pacific time and once on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. But I want it to be more flexible. And the idea that I had was to create an action which permits me to programmatically update the schedule for a cron trigger. So, and this is what I've been working on, set cron schedule action. And basically the way I want it to work is, let me show you the code here. I want people to be able to use the action like this and then set a token, which must be a personal access token because the workflow scope is required. And the provided secrets GitHub token does not permit you to update workflow files. And then you pass cron input where you can set either one schedule or multiple schedules. And then you can set the message, which is the commit message. And if you want, you can also workflow ID or file name. My update.yaml. So all right, I think that should be it. Like my workflow. Okay, let's see the changes we got here. I've added some tests and I added coverage. So I have to add the NYC output and coverage folders. Okay. Oh, this is the wrong. This is a wrong file. Okay, now. NYC output has a dot. Okay, that looks good. Now I will just add it all together, because before I used this repository for a different kind of cron idea where I could just iterate through an array of schedule triggers, but then I found out that GitHub Actions supports that by default. So instead, I want to create a set cron schedule action where you can just update the schedule trigger either on the current workflow or on one you define with the workflow input. Okay, so feature, and then this is all new. Set cron schedule action, breaking change. All new. Okay. So if everything works right, then this should do the release, but it should also run tests. Why doesn't it run tests? Let me see. Oh, there's a problem. Oh, okay. I was disabled, that's why. All right, let's see if the release works. Okay, I think I forgot one thing, which is I need to use v2 now and update the README as well to use v2. Okay, let's see if that works. This is the running the tests now. Okay, let's go to the code. So here basically just load the main function and then log out an error if there is one and set the status using action score. And I separated it out from main because in my test files, I also load main and then run it in a different way without loading the environment variables from my local.env file. Let's see if the release worked as well. So let's check out main. What am I doing here? First, I check if the environment variables I need do exist. Then I use the action score package to get the token input, the cron input, the workflow input, which can be the workflow ID or the file name, and then the message, the commit message, which I set to a default. I then instantiate an OctoKit instance. And I either get the workflow by ID, if the workflow ID was passed, and if not, then I load all the workflows from GitHub, and then compare to the current name that I pass here. Unfortunately, there is no easier name to find the current workflow, not as far as I know. The only environment variable we get for this is GitHub workflow, which is not the file name or the ID, but the name, which is not ideal because in theory, multiple workflow files can have the same name, but I consider this an edge case and I will not account for that here. So, and then I get the content using the contents API here, which is a base64 string. So I need to convert it and then use YAML, the YAML.js package to load the YAML content and turn it into an object. Then I load the current expressions and compare them to the new expressions that has been set with the cron input here. And then if there is no change, we are good and we just exit again. Otherwise, I update the workflow object, the schedule key with the new cron schedules, and then create the string, the YAML string for the new workflow object and update it. And that's it. And I also created a new action here that I haven't tested yet, which is basically an end-to-end test where I can use the workflow trigger with an input to set the cron to whatever I want. And while this is preparing, I can show you the code for this. So basically, we have a workflow dispatch here with the cron input that I later use here to set the cron input for the current action. And it sets up the repository, sets up node, then builds the current action, and then basically uses itself to run. So that failed. Workflow is invalid. What? Okay. So we basically forgot a closing bracket there. CI end-to-end fix syntax. Oh, I just realized for this to work, I also need to, wait, no. How does this work? Cron, and then let's just say at noon on January 1st. Okay. I think that's right. Add schedule trigger to workflow file, because otherwise this will not work. I probably shouldn't run this only if GitHub, what is it called? The event name. I can check if the event name is a certain event. Let me see. GitHub workflow expressions. Event name. Okay. There we go. So if GitHub event name is workflow dispatch. All right. CI end-to-end do not run on scheduled trigger on scheduled event. Okay. All right, so now no matter what we set in the cron triggers, it will never be triggered by it. And when I use the workflow dispatch trigger, it will be triggered and it runs my action with whatever I set in the input. So let's try this again. Actions, end-to-end test, and then manually run the workflow. Let's see if this works. So at least we don't have any syntax error any longer. All right, so it tells me that it worked, but did it? Okay, let's see. Oh, wait. Yeah, there's a commit. There you go. So it did some unrelated syntax updates here, but I don't care about these. This is the update we wanted, so it works. Awesome. So we can now go to releases and edit this release, publish to marketplace. All right, so there it is. You can now use my new action here. Oh, and I forgot to also post the issue for today's show. There you go. Okay. So now what I want is run this action with every time any of my show issues are updated or created or whatever. So let's see what I have so far, because I have this workflow which is run each time a show is and a show issue was created, updated, and so on. Okay, so I think I will just reuse it, so I don't need to run multiple workflows. That will save some resources. So we'll probably just rename it, and just instead of calling an update shows, I will just call it like update, just update probably. And right now I update the shows, and here I set the scheduled tweets here. And now I will add another one where I will need my personal access token, as I mentioned before. So this is the first thing that I will do. I will go to secrets, and I don't think I have one with workflow access yet. So I will quickly stop sharing here and add a token. All right. So now I have this new secret which has the workflow scope. Okay. So far so good. Now let's go. So this a bit bigger. No, not bookkeeping, help desk. That's the one. We just call it handle shows or handle show issues. and rename it to handle show issues. And then one thing I just realized is I can limit this and make sure that I only run this workflow if the show label is set, because I'm not interested in any other issues. If this is simple, then I will just add this really quick. So again, in OctoKit, we have this repository webhooks where we maintain JSON schemas for all the events. We have much more data here than GitHub on its own documentation. And the idea is to turn this eventually into official JSON schemas or even make it part of the Open API. But for now, you can just check it out here. So for example, opened, there should always be this issue object. And there is a labels. Okay. Now I need to check out these expressions. I wonder if we can check for an array item. Oh, that is amazing. Are you kidding me? That's exactly what I want. Wonderful. Wow. All right. So basically, this is really smart. So basically what we want is from the event payload, where there's always an issue key, I want to check for the labels and check if there is one with the name show. Because in my helpdesk repository, show is basically the label that I use. And then if it's open, then it's an upcoming show. And if it's closed, then it's one of the past shows. But all of them have this show label. So that is very cool. That will save us quite a few of runs if I create issues that are not shows. Okay. Rename update shows workflow to handle show issues and only trigger if issue has show label. Because what I've seen in the past is that when I create a new issue with a label, the workflow is actually triggered twice. And then there are like some weird racing conditions, which I've already addressed with this concurrency setting. So the concurrency setting gives you quite a lot of control about whether you want to permit or avoid concurrency in which use cases. But this is an even more elegant way to reduce the amount when this workflow is triggered in the first place. All right, so let's push this. Okay, so basically what I want now is to use my new action here. I just posted, oops, the link here. Set cron schedule. This is now on Marketplace. I should probably set this as the website so it's easier to find. Okay. So basically I want to run this. I call this gr2m path for personal access token with workflow scope. And then I will have a new workflow, which is something like handle show start YAML. And then here to be done, the message, we can just use the default thing. So now, where do we get the expressions from? And for that, I will first comment this out because we will not run it yet. For that, I will create a new script and call it something like node get show schedules JS, and then give it ID, like show schedules, so that later I can use an expression, which I keep forgetting about. I think it's something like steps, show schedules, outputs, schedules, something like that. Let me so yeah, steps, step ID, outputs, output name. Okay. So basically, we now need to create this file and load all the open shows from the issues, and then turn them into cron schedule expressions. And finally, write the schedules as a new line separated string to the outputs of the current step. All right. So this is our new file, and I will just copy what I already have for the schedules. I don't need the README box. I need the pagina plugin. Okay. That's okay. Oh, that also reminds me that I need to set the GitHub token to secrets. GitHub token here. Okay, so we have our OctoKit instance. We load all the issues for our help desk shows that are no, not all. It should give me a IntelliSense here. Oh, it's just state. Okay, let me quickly look this up. So it's REST reference issues. Okay, what are possible values? So it's open. It's the default value, but people sometimes don't know and they might have wrong assumptions. So just setting the state explicitly makes more sense. It makes the code more readable. Load open issues with the show label. Okay. So I will just do upcoming shows now. I can use the same logic to split up the title. Okay. Upcoming shows. Cron. Okay, that's fine. And then we will just delete the rest for now. And just run this. Okay. So we have our date time This is pretty much the only thing we are interested in right now, really. So we can just remove all that stuff. Well, maybe the URL we can keep. Okay. Return date time. Okay. Get show schedules. Perfect. Or not so much. So basically, what we get the first part of the issue, which includes the date time. But I think I was a little bit more sophisticated. About parsing it in my Twitter action. Because here I really needed to... Oops, that's not my... Set scheduled tweets is the one. Okay. So that's more like it. Okay. So we are loading all the issues and then okay. So we have the full issue object, and then we get the issue body. We look for the calendar and the clock emoji to read out the actual date string and time string. And then I think I need day.js and all kinds of plugins. So let's add them here. Like that. Okay, there's some workarounds in here. I do want to ignore open issues for shows that are in the past, so that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So for now, let's just do that. And probably we won't get anything. Oops, show issues. It's not defined. Okay. So we don't get anything, and the reason is that we are ignoring shows that are in the past. So I will, for now, comment it out because I have no other shows scheduled, at least not in the issues. So for testing, we will just get the one that I'm doing right now. And this is UTC time zone, so 7 p.m. Or 19 o'clock for my friends in the rest of the world is noon Pacific time. Now, what I need to do is basically change this to a cron job format. So what do I need? Minutes. Hours. I'm not sure. The day. And then the month. Well, I don't know. I will have to look up the formats for this. And then basically the last one is the day of the week. So we just want to use the star. But just for comparison, let me add the time to isostring here. All right, so at 0, but not noon, because GitHub servers are in UTC as well. So I think I can just set this to UTC like this. Interesting. What's the UTC offset? I think there is like a time zone offset. In minutes, okay. Let's see if this will now work. Oh, it's not a function? Invalidate, okay. Let's try this. Okay. I think the 7 is 7 p.m. and we want the 24-hour format. So the next, why is it 1 when it should be 14? And then the month and the star. And I think that's it. So that looks pretty good. You don't need that. So I can definitely do some code deduplication here, but that's not so interesting. So we'll leave it out of the show. All right. So here is basically the schedule now. And I can action score. Score. Set output. Wait, I don't get any IntelliSense for this. Huh. Somehow all the IntelliSense is gone. All right. Anyway, I think I know what I'm doing. Okay. Let's do something more helpful. cron schedules for upcoming shows. Is, and then log it as object like that. Okay. I'm just thinking about what to do if there are no upcoming shows, but we can handle that later. Okay. Handle show issues. Just call it cron. Or schedule. Okay. So set output schedule to upcoming cron shows. Crons join by new line. Okay. I don't have the actions core package. Okay. Let's try this again. All right, so this is the special syntax for the standard out, which then GitHub picks up and does its magic. So we set the schedule output variable to this string. All right. And now we're done here. Okay. Oh no, I still need to create a new workflow. Which is handle show start YAML. And I can just handle show start. Doesn't matter what's in there right now. And then let's just run and print. I think like there is this command on Ubuntu and Unix systems to just log out environment variables. Okay. I don't need this. Well, I can just also just say echo. Okay. All right. So today's episode is 27, and we will add set cron schedule for upcoming shows. Okay, I think I have a workflow dispatch here, so that works. Oh. If GitHub event name is workload dispatch, or okay, that's better. Otherwise it would just fall apart, because this would never be true if I used the workflow dispatch trigger. Okay. Set cron schedule for handle show start YAML workflow on show issue updates. Create a pull request. Okay. Implementation for show number 27. So here's the pull request we just created. Let's check the code changes. It looks good. Okay. This will be the new workflow file where we will comment on the current issue. All right. Let's merge that in. I like to use the GitHub CLI because it also just deletes my branch right away and then pull the changes. Okay. Now, handle show issues, run the workflow, and see what happens. So lots of stuff going on here. Wow. Did this just work on first try? I cannot believe this. Okay, so basically, this is wrong though. It shouldn't be noon. Oh, of course not, because stupid time zone, sorry. Because of course the time zone offset when it's running on GitHub Actions servers is 0, right? Because it's running on UTC. So this should be 19. Other than that, this is good. This looks good. So I don't quite get it. Like I had so much trouble with this already before. Where is it? Get show schedules. So this is the only place where I currently use time zone. Okay. So this is not a good idea. Offset name. Oh, this is what I want. Let's try it with this one. invalidate. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's a function, okay. So basically, I don't want subtract. Well, I guess that works. So that works. Okay, CI. Show schedules. Fixing time zone problem. Hoping, anyway. I need to pull the changes first, and now I can push. Okay, let's try this again. Actions and show issues and run it. Oh, that looks good this time. All right, perfect. So this is now in the past, but it does what we want. So that is really cool. I guess what's left to be done right now, at least for today, is I want to create a new issue. Which will be very interesting. It will be with Arta from the TypeScript team on Thursday, but I don't think it will be at 1 p.m. I have to check out my calendar really quick. So let me check my calendar. Sorry, I cannot share it. It's very boring anyway. Oh, it's going to be on Friday instead of Thursday at 12:30 Pacific time. So half an hour afternoon. And it will be about TypeScript, of course. So OctoKit has thousands of lines of code for TypeScript to give you all this nice IntelliSense when you use it. But I run into limits with the current implementation. And there are a few things that I would like to do for like an upcoming new TypeScript architecture, if you want so. And while doing that, I also want to migrate to native ES modules. And one thing that I would like to work with Arta on is to permit plugins to extend the options that I can pass to the constructor. So when you load, let's say, the throttle plugin and then do new OctoKit, I want your code editor to suggest the throttle option. And this will only be present if you loaded a plugin, and ideally only present if you also loaded the plugin. So that's one thing I want to do. There are a few other minor things, but it will be a lot of heavy advanced TypeScript stuff. So if this is your jam, definitely come on Friday, 12:30 noon, to a special show with Arta from the TypeScript team. All right, I will create a new issue for that and hope that it will work just as well as the one I just did. And I should also remove this comment here because we no longer need it. I don't want to set crons for past shows. And yeah, probably on Monday next week, we can use the new workflow that will be triggered at the right date and time to find the issue for the episode that it just started to run and then add a comment to it. If you have any other questions, again, you can go to issue 27. I will add some show notes, but you can also ask questions here, even if the issue is already closed. Thank you all. Bye-bye.